Jerry Jones, the GM, Jerry Jones, the owner, they're getting ready to meet the media. His son, Stephen Jones, is involved, who says, Dad, listen, I'm going to want you to say not much. Let's go full Hamilton. Talk less, listen more. But no, I don't think that Jerry Jones subscribes to that musical or knows who Lin-Manuel Miranda is. For crying out loud, I'm not sure he knows who Micah Parsons' agent is, but I digress. The most amazing thing that's happening around the Cowboys, not Dak Prescott, that was last year, but he's going to come up. The big story is not that they stink again, because that's just a Tuesday. The big story is that Micah Parsons wants a new deal. Micah Parsons is not just your average ordinary player. He's really good. He's in the final year of a deal. He's getting $24 million this year. He doesn't know that he wants to play because he wants another deal. And so obviously there were going to be questions asked to Jerry Jones about Micah Parsons. And you'd think that Stephen Jones would have any sway over his dad, which he doesn't, and say, listen, when you're asked this question, here's what we'd like you to say. We'd like you to say that we are working closely with Micah and his great representative. We are trying very hard to get this done to make sure that the Cowboys' best interest is served, the fans' best interest, put them first, and the team and the player. But instead, when asked a question about Micah Parsons and the possibility of a long-term contract, listen to what, and this is actually Jerry Jones. If you're listening, the voice you're going to hear is Jerry Jones. If you're watching on Nothing Personal with David Samson, this is Jerry Jones.
Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about when you, just as the player does, when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money.
Guaranteeing money. Is Jerry Jones absolutely on message perfectly? Do you think that Jerry Jones was watching Pablo Torre Finds Out and was reading the 61-page grievance, or was living through the reality of guaranteeing contracts to players, realizing, well, what MLB does is the worst plan in the world? Guaranteeing contracts regardless of injury or poor performance. This is fantastic. Why are we paying people when they may not perform? Now, if Stephen Jones or the PR person or the new coach, Brian Schottenheimer, who was the first image on that sound on tape, and I wanted you to see that image of Coach Schottenheimer because, Coach, I know that you're taking over for Mike McCarthy, who just got fired, but this is what it is every day with the Cowboys. You will have that look of, oh my God, I am sitting here with Jerry Jones, and he's going to, no, he's not. Oh God, he's going to talk. Did you see Schottenheimer's face? It was glorious. And Jones was just getting started. Now, he didn't have the facts right, and you'd assume that had he rehearsed this or listened to his PR people, that maybe he would have had the fact that Micah Parsons only missed 4 games last year, not 6. The point is not a terrible one, but it's also the reality of sports. You are paying people. It doesn't happen outside of the sports world. Can you imagine the contract we signed with Metalark? Nothing personal. We will be with you all year doing episodes Monday to Friday. And then we just say, you know what? I don't feel that great. I got a little sprinkle in my gonecticozoint, so I no show today. And I'm not talking about the days that we take off or that we're allowed to take off contractually. I'm talking about, because there's plenty of those in sports. I'm talking about like today, where I would just say, you know, I'm a little hurt. I got this, I got that. Can't do that. Still get paid? That would be amazing. I have a contract that says, here's the number of shows you do. This is what you get paid. In sports, you get a contract that says, here's the amount of money you get. Please, I hope you play. We're not going to say that your show has to be good, David, but that's understood. We're not going to say that you have to be a good player and perform, but man, you'd think that would be understood. Why Jerry Jones felt the need to throw shrapnel at Dak Prescott for being hurt, it's strange to me. But I used to work with an owner who, at the end of he's not old. Now he's an octogenarian, but the reality is that owners have a very interesting mentality because they don't think they're wrong. They believe that they have all of the information and they believe their analysis is always spot on because that's the way it's been in business. And that's the way it is when you are never told by anybody that you're wrong or that you may be looking at something differently because people treat you as an owner with such amazing reference. That may not be the word, Coca. What is the word? I know Sheldon's going to correct me, Coca. When you treat reverence? I just said reverence. Can you think of the word, Coca? If you can, yell it in my right ear. When you teach, when you play someone up and you treat them as though they are this godlike person because they know so much or they're so rich or they're your boss. Whatever, Coca. We both got A's in English, but that was a long time ago. So Jerry goes ahead and talks about Micah Parsons. And the reason he's talking about Micah is Micah's unsigned. But then he really couldn't help himself because he was asked several more questions. And I want to get to, before we play more sound, he talked a little bit about whether or not he was going to continue to be the general manager of the team. And he said that he actually thought about stepping down as GM, but then he said, not really. Like he totally faked out the entire Cowboys fan base. He said, small fractions of seconds. I would like to do an imitation of Jerry Jones, the owner, seeing whether Jerry Jones, the GM, would resign his position and how long the conversation would go. While he's looking out at another loss, another season without a conference championship. Jerry, that was a very bad season. Yep, not my fault. All right, that was it. That's all Jerry the GM says. Jerry the GM always says to Jerry the owner, dude, that wasn't me. That was you. Every problem we have here is not the GM. If I could get an owner to not be meddling, I would be the best GM in football, like executive of the year type stuff. But I got the most meddling owner in the world. And you know that I have absolutely credited Jerry Jones with doing what most owners won't do, all owners won't do. They don't name themselves GM. This is outstanding because Jerry Jones is not the only owner who acts as GM. He's the only owner who admits to acting like GM and the only owner who says, why would I pay someone to pretend that I'm not being the GM? But if you think that Jerry Jones is sitting around doing budgets and some of the work that GMs have to do, that is absolutely mind-numbing. The painstaking detail of what it is that people overlook, thinking that GMs just make trades, they just make signings, they just speak to agents. Well, Jerry Jones, the GM, doesn't even speak to agents. And his son covered him up because Jerry Jones was not happy about Micah Parsons' agent. He said, by the way, I don't even speak to Micah Parsons' agent. At one point, he said, I don't even know Micah Parsons' agent, which you know, of course, is a lie. Why? Because all the owners know Deshaun Watson's agent. Every one of them. I promise. You can't collude without knowing who the agent is. Oh, I'm just kidding. You know there's no collusion. Jerry, as part of the same press conference, threw more manna from heaven toward us. Listen to what else he said.
The other thing I would say is contracts are 4 or 5 years. Okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car. Seriously. And so there's a lot to look at over a lot of years that could make a big difference. Have you ever heard of any clubs committing to players and then they didn't pan out after they committed to them? We have. And so my point is there's of all the reasons in the world to, when you're under contract, and if you're not under contract, one of the things that exacerbates this is that you have a kind of a policy or a practice to have contracts but have like it's some kind of obligation to do something before the contract is over. Okay? In other words, not have the benefit of the contract. Well, that goes completely against the benefit of the club, which ultimately should be to put a winning team on the field.
He almost had it, because the end of that, he's not wrong. What he's referring to is the old Jerry Reinsdorf, which is, I'm not going to give you a new contract in the middle of your contract. Just play out your contract, and then we'll give you a new contract. But why would I give you more money for the fact that you're overperforming? I absolutely agree with that, because there is no refund when the player stinks. But what Jerry Jones, the problem is he's the wrong messenger for this. What he was trying to say is that when people are asking for these long-term contracts, the issue is, what if they can't perform? What if they don't perform? And then what if they overperform? And if they overperform, then the club is expected to somehow make it right. And if they can't perform, injury, or don't perform, stink, then we're just stuck with it.